Good morning. My name's David Hirsch. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the current president, soon to be former president of the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Eau Claire. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all who treasure freedom of conscience and the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today. We hope you follow our Facebook page. To participate in Zoom and receive announcements about special events and our religious exploration classes, please sign up for our weekly email. There should be a link in the comments section on our Facebook page where you can sign up. We're so glad you joined us today.
Good morning to all our UUC members and friends, as well as visitors from the other Unitarian Universalist congregations for our service this morning. My name is Debbie Campbell, and I will be your worship associate for this morning. Our opening words are a renewed hope for this world from Nathan Ryan. Be it real or metaphor, whatever is in your backpack or your briefcase or your purse that is weighing you down, leave it behind. Whatever you are carrying that is keeping you distracted or caught up in shame or guilt or hopelessness, leave it behind. If you need it, it will be there when we're done, but for this hour, just let it go. Come into this place with open hearts. Come into this place with a soul that has remembered how to be tender again. Come into this place with a renewed hope for this world. Come into this place ready to build a world we've always been worthy of and have always dreamed of. Come, let us worship together.
Hi, everybody. This is Brianna, the president of the LGBTQ plus Community Center. As you may know, we are located right up the street from you at the Executive Center, Suite 204. The Chippewa Valley LGBTQ plus Community Center offers resources to LGBTQ individuals in the Tri-County area, which is Dunn, Chippewa, and Eau Claire counties. We do expand out to Clark and Taylor and Barron counties when needed. We offer resources as in we have our transgender support group, we have our trans parent support group, we have our teen hangout, and we also partner with the Safe Spaces Coalition to offer the resource guide that includes medical care and all of that. And we also host, of course, Pride in the Park. And Pride in the Park has really grown in the last couple of years. This year has been our biggest and best after taking 2020 off for COVID. We had over 2,000 people attend, and we had over 45 vendors and small business sponsors. Like I said, make it the biggest and the best, and we can't wait to see what the future holds with that. Besides that, we have just seen such great growth within the center in the last 12 months. We have umbrellaed the Andrew Cray Higher Education Fund under our 501c3 status. So we are now offering scholarships to high school seniors, LGBTQ high school seniors, to help continue on their college journey. So that has been a great addition. We are also expanding into umbrellaing Safe Spaces Coalition under our 501c3. And we have also got enough contributions that we were able to do 2 new paid staff members. So we have a new project director, and her name is Kayla Johnson, and we have a grant director, and her name is Issa Small. And they're going to help build the center and grow the center. And really, the contributions and donations from private donors and organizations like yourself are what is going to help them succeed and what is going to help pay them to continue to work. And that's what we're really excited about, is being able to really see the expansion of our nonprofit and the help that we're going to get. In 2021 and 2022, we are looking for more rural programming, sexual assault awareness, and all of that. And of course, see what 2022 holds for Pride, because it's going to be even better than this year. So I want to thank you for your donations. We love the UUC. We love your support. And all the work that you do to help LGBTQ individuals in the city of Eau Claire and around. So yeah, our partnership is great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful day, and enjoy the rest of your service. Bye-bye.
Good morning and welcome to everyone. This morning's words for lighting the chalice will be by Elizabeth Hardy. We Unitarian Universalists don't drink from our chalice. Instead, we use it to hold the flame. The circle of the chalice helps keep the flame small. The flame does not blind us. It doesn't burn us. It gives us light so we can see all the different things in the universe, even the invisible one, because the Unitarian Universalist flame is a light of learning. The flaming chalice is a symbol of learning and of love. It's our symbol, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism.
Our first reading is A Cup of Tea from the Building Bridges UU curricula. Nanin, a Japanese master during the Meiji era, welcomed into his home a university professor who had asked to see him. The professor arrived, answered the master's simple, polite greeting with a brisk, arrogant reply, and strode past him into the house. The old man followed his guest quietly into the sparsely furnished living space and watched, his customary peaceful expression undisturbed, as the professor seated himself without being asked. Will you honor me as my guest for tea? Nanan asked the professor. Yes, I'd like tea, was the blunt reply, and I want to ask you some questions, the professor continued with a self-satisfied smirk. They say you are very wise, and I would learn what you have to teach. Certainly, Nanan replied, I will gladly share all I know, but first let us have tea. The professor frowned at Nanan, then sighed impatiently. Very well, he said, his voice curt. He rearranged his silken coat after tea. Nanan focused on his task. He prepared the tea to the perfect temperature, steeped it just long enough but not too long, and set the simple, lovely dishes in an orderly arrangement on the cloth. The professor cleared his throat and adjusted his coat again. Nanan at last finished all his preparations and was ready to pour. The master held the pot over his visitor's cup and began to serve him tea. The professor impatiently reached for the cup before it was half full, but Nanan continued filling the cup. He poured his visitor's cup 3/4 full and then kept on pouring. When the cup was full to the brim, Nanan kept pouring and the tea ran over the edge of the cup into the saucer. Nanan, gazing calmly at the cup, continued to pour, and the tea overran the saucer and began to run over the table. The professor watched the overflow until he could no longer restrain himself. The cup is full, no more will go in. So it is, said Nanan contentedly, and he stopped pouring tea into the cup. He looked at the professor with his kind, steady gaze and said, like this cup, you are full to the brim with your own opinions, your own importance. How can you learn anything unless you first empty your cup?
This reading is The Constellation of Our Lives by Karen Johnston. Humans make maps of stars, choosing some stars, ignoring others, to project our imagination into the heavens. These maps shift over time across cultures. Names change for the same assemblage of bright points. Drinking gourd, Big Dipper, plow, lost hunters. Humans make constellations by connecting stars. Humans make meaning by connecting stories, story to narrative to story. Some blaze bright, some are faint. Most are a backdrop to the great and mundane human unfolding. Let us imagine the stories of our lives as a starry universe above our heads. We are tasked and trusted to draw constellations in this, our beloved small universe. May the stories that we connect draw constellations that reflect our shared ministry. And we have so many UU congregations visiting us today. I think of our points of light connecting across our different congregations. And may they reflect the best in us. Amen. Now is the time in our service where we share our joys and concerns. You may share your joys and concerns in the chat, and I will share them aloud in this community of care. We will have a moment of silence as you share them in the chat. Also, this news, it is with tender hearts that we mourn the death and celebrate the life of Neil Lockwood, longtime member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Minnetonka. Neil died on July 6, 2021, at the age of 96 after a brief time in hospice. We hold his family, Jeff and Tara, and his many friends in our circle of care. A service and celebration of life will be held at UUCM at a future date. And so we light this candle for him. Marcia shares that her grandson turned 4 yesterday, so we light a candle for him. And Mike and Brooke share that our son is truly bored, a joy, and thus safe in Kuwait. And Elizabeth shares, my cousin in Sydney, Australia is in total lockdown due to COVID. So I'm going to light a candle for those joys and concerns. Marcia shared that her family and son leave for a 4-day stay in Michigan, wishing them a safe trip and a fun time. Faith shares joy at her grandson's baptism. Steph and Cohen, hopefully I'm saying that right, you can tell me after service, getting to spend time in person with my in-laws. It was lovely to have them spend time with our 5-year-old. That's wonderful. We'll light a candle for all those joys and concerns. We also share a joy that I hear that Carol Brainerd, our UUC member, has been doing well. She welcomes visitors, and you can contact her through her son. And if you would like that information, you can contact me at minister@uueauclair.com. After service, we will have a brief time where those in Zoom will be able to share joys and concerns in their own voices as well. Diane shares our neighbor who grew up in Namibia, and her father still does. Shared classmates of her have died from COVID, and many others, they still have no vaccines. Going to light this final candle for all the joys and concerns that are too tender to escape the folds of our hearts. We end our joys and concerns with these words. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our story for all ages today is a different kind of superhero, Christopher Reeve, part of Faithful Journeys. It was a hot, muggy morning. Christopher was not sure he really wanted to be out riding in a competition. His thoroughbred horse, Eastern Express, seemed a bit off, as if maybe he would rather be grazing in a field than doing the demanding work of running and jumping with a big, muscular man on his back. Maybe Christopher thought it would be nicer to take the kids sailing today, where there would be a cool breeze. Sorry if you can hear my kids in the background, I apologize. Well, he thought, I'm a lucky man to be able to choose between riding and sailing. In fact, plenty of people watching Christopher that day thought the same thing. He was many people's idea of a superhero. He was the actor who played Superman in the movies, and in real life, he fit the part. Handsome, strong, always striving towards a goal, chasing his best time and learning a new skill. And then in an instant, everything changed. Eastern Express bulked at a jump, sending Christopher crashing to the ground. When he woke up in the hospital, Christopher couldn't move his hands or feet. He couldn't even breathe without the help of a machine. Although doctors could repair his neck, they could not fix the injury to his spinal cord. Now Christopher's brain was unable to communicate with most of his body. Even though he still had all his strength, intelligence, and willpower, there was simply no way for him to move any part of his body below his head. Despair washed over Christopher. If he could not do anything, could not be useful to anyone, why not put him out of his misery like they did with the horses that were injured too badly to walk again? Maybe, he said to his wife, Dana, we should just let me go. But Dana spoke words that helped start him on the road towards his new life. But you're still you, and I love you. Of course, Christopher Reeve had never actually been able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but he had been a tremendous athlete. He had always liked a goal, a challenge, something to work for. Before his accident, Christopher's challenges involved acting, directing, and sports. Now his challenges were different. Now it took all of his strength and determination to sit up in a wheelchair and steer it by puffing in a straw. His heart ached with all he had lost. He might never again be able to hug his wife and sons or ride a horse or sail, but he realized he still had a lot. The love of his family and money and fame from his career. Christopher decided to use everything he still had to work for a new goal. As always, Christopher Reeve dreamed big. He hoped there might be a cure for spinal cord injuries, not just for himself, but also for many thousands of others whose lives had changed, where their backs or necks were broken. He and his wife set up the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. They asked people for money to help pay scientists to research for a cure. Then Dana realized how lucky they were to be able to afford a ramp into their home and a big van that could fit Christopher's wheelchair. They collected money to help pay for ramps and other helpful things, so more people with spinal cord injuries could also have them. Christopher realized that even though he could no longer use his arms and legs, he had a power that many people did not. He was famous. People thought of him as Superman. Now he could really be a hero, not by flying through the air to rescue people, but by speaking up. Because he was famous, people would pay attention. They would listen and they would want to help. It wasn't easy. Christopher didn't want people to feel sorry for him. He didn't want to be embarrassed if he could not use his mouth to speak well, or if his body, as sometimes happened, jerked around without his control. But he knew this was a special chance to use the power he had and make the world a better place. So Christopher started speaking. He asked Congress to support stem cell research that might lead to a cure for spinal cord injuries. He asked groups of people to get involved and donate money. He talked with others who had experienced injuries like his. He even spoke on television to millions of people during the Academy Awards, showing everyone that although his abilities had changed, his heart and his soul were strong and capable. A writer from Reader's Digest magazine interviewed Christopher Reeve near the end of his life in 2004 and asked him why he had joined a Unitarian church. He answered, "It gives me a moral compass. I often refer to Abe Lincoln, who said, 'When I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad, and that is my religion.' I think we all have a little voice inside us that guide us. It may be God, I don't know, but I think that if we shut out all the noise and clutter from our lives and listen to that voice, it will tell us the right thing to do." Christopher Reeve showed what a real life hero is. A person who listens to the voice inside them and acts when that voice tells them the right thing to do.
So my sermon today is resilient hearts and sunflowers. And you might be wondering where Superman fits in that and the tea story, but don't worry, you will not be disappointed. I have a big confession to make. Okay, are you ready? Okay. My theme song was I Am Superman. And if you haven't heard it, it's the REM song, I Am Superman. I am Superman, and I can do anything. And that sounds really good, but it's not. It's super toxic. And so it took me a number of years to dismantle that song from my brain. But I love REM, and I love the story of Christopher Reeve and his amazing use of his fame and the way that he used that resilience to inspire others and to really reframe what happened to him into a chance to live a new life, a new kind of life in the time that he had. And when I think of theme songs, some of us say, what is your spirit animal? What's your theme song? What's your favorite color? Well, during the pandemic, which has been, there's so many words that we hear over and over again, and we've probably gotten tired of, this unmitigated, the worst thing that ever happened, and the words that we hear over and over again. But it is, the pandemic has been difficult, and it has caused many of us to examine what is important. Who are we after spending 17 months through screens and potentially isolated situations? What's important to us? How can we unfold, unwind, reemerge from the trauma that we have experienced during this time? And I have generally done what is the American message, be strong, bootstrap it. I am Superman, be brave. And, that only takes you so far and can really lead to burnout and unhealth. And I think over the past years as a mother and as a partner, minister here in Eau Claire for 10 years, there are times when it feels amazing to do a 12-hour day where you start the day off with emails and calls and a pastoral visit and a lunch with a colleague and a community organizing meeting. And then by the end, you're at an event and then a meeting. But at the end of that 12-hour day, how healthy is that? And I know many of you in your professions or in your volunteer life or as parents or caregivers, you have similar stories perhaps, where you give and give and give, but you forget to refill your cup. And I think, to use the metaphor of Superman, that can be kryptonite. And I really want us to think about, in not only ministry or life or in our congregations, but in our communities, how are we spending our time? How are we caring for ourselves? And those of you in Eau Claire know that during COVID, my partner and I built a labyrinth garden in our front yard, and we laid the stones out. At first, people thought we were building an alien landing pad because it was these concentric circles and it had the stones, and we kept laying it out. And our neighbors said, what are you doing there? And it created a great chance to actually have a conversation with humans as they were walking by. And this year we have filled in dirt and things like that. And last summer, with a hope and a prayer, I planted a seed, a sunflower seed. And I love sunflowers. I'm from South Carolina, and that to me was just the thing that reminds me of my mother, and it reminds me of summer. And anyway, that was another symbol for me. So anyway, at the end of the summer, this thing shot up in my garden, and his big yellow face was just sitting there, and I just was so happy. And this year, I cut off the head of the sunflower, which sounds very violent, but it was at the end of its lifestyle. So the life. And so I used its seeds and planted new sunflowers, and I have them all over my garden. And one is just about to open. It did not cooperate with this Sunday. I was hoping that it would cooperate, but it had its own plans. But it will open in its own time, just as we do. And, I think there are so many ways in which we can look at how we live our lives, what we expect of ourselves. Is it realistic to expect yourself to do X, Y, Z? Is this something that's really true, or are you people pleasing? Are you anxious? Are you doing this just because? And I know that we're finding in our congregation, as people are slowly re-entering into the life of the congregation in in-person ways, such as I think someone mentioned before we started service that we had Juneteenth, and we saw some of our folks there, which was wonderful. We had a Pride in the Park booth, and people are asking, how do I want to spend my time? What is it that makes me come alive? And my new song, and I've said this in other services, is by Rising Appalachia. And if you haven't discovered this band, it's two sisters who sing, and they have a very diverse band with people around the world. And it's I am resilient. And I won't try and sing it to you, but it's lovely. And I played it literally. I felt like I was 5 because I wanted to hear it again and again. and I made it the new message in my head during COVID. And I'm trying to think about, now that I'm emerging, what does that mean for me as a theme song now? And so having a resilient heart is to risk vulnerability. I announced to my congregation over the past few months that I've been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And many of us live with health conditions or concerns and things that are invisible to others, griefs, hurts, illnesses, worries. And we don't need to necessarily announce them in a service on Facebook. But my point is that we can have positive vulnerability. We don't have to be men or women or people of steel. Our ability to share and to be in community with each other is to share our burdens, to walk with one another. And if we fill our cup too full, if we try and take on too much, there isn't room for other things. So when I'm worried so much about things, I don't have room for feeling your compassion or feeling your tenderness, because I'm consumed by my fear or my anxiety. So if I can take that down a little bit and make room for you, and get out of my ego and know that we're in community, that's powerful. And it creates resilience to know that we are not alone. The Western message of bootstrap it, be a cowboy and smoke Marlboros, and that's an older message, but the idea that we can go it alone and succeed can be very toxic. When I was in seminary in Atlanta, we had a large population of South Korean United Methodists. I went to Candler School of Theology in Atlanta, which is a Methodist seminary, and we had, about 5 Unitarian Universalists. Anyway, the South Koreans had a chance to share some of their culture with us, which was wonderful. And I was in a class and we were talking about imagery. And one of the students stood up and said, you know, here in America, you have people who think like they are an oak, standing alone, you know, top of the hill doing it. Whereas in our culture, we think of the bamboo forest, ginseng, where the roots are interconnected and we feed each other and we have multi-generational community, and it's okay to rely on one another. And I wonder if after this time that we've been a part of, where neighbors shared toilet paper, hopefully, I know many of the folks in Eau Claire made masks and delivered them to congregation members or institutions in need. If people needed groceries or food, people reached out, and across this country and across the world, you know, people were singing across alleyways and finding ways to remind us that we are connected when we felt so alone. So what can we do with that? You know, how can we reach out across to our neighbors, you know, after this very tough year politically and socially, to try and call people in? You know, one of our themes is to draw the circle wide and to call people into community instead of calling, always, sometimes you have to call things out, but sometimes calling people in. Wanted to share some words from Thomas Merton. You know, one of the ways in which we can find resilience is to not fill every moment up with noise or with busyness. I know when I'm feeling particularly worried, I will fill my day. And sometimes I also view productivity as some message or value of my worth. So I'll fill my day with things and things and things and things. And by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. And I wonder why I did that. Why I did that. And it's a good question. So Thomas Merton said, be still. Listen to the stories, listen to the stones of the wall. Be silent. They try to speak your name. Listen to the living walls. Who are you? Whose silence are you? So when we're quiet in our gardens or in our walks or shutting the bathroom door from little people, we try and find that moment to reconnect to who we are. You know, we have people like Christopher Reeve who had a sudden confrontation with who he might be, who he could be, who he would be. And so we listen to the living walls, and Thomas Merton asked, who are you? He also said, the whole world is secretly on fire. The stones burn, even the stones. They burn me. How can a man be still and listen to all things burning? How can he dare sit with them when all their silence is on fire? The idea that the whole world is secretly on fire. And I don't think he views that in a bad way. Like that could mean necessarily a bad thing, but the idea that it is alive and has things, you know, you have the connotation of the burning bush and the idea that there is something, a message, if we are listening. Thomas Merton was born in 1915 and he died in 1968. He was a Catholic writer, mystic, Trappist monk. And he was not only a poet, but he was a social activist and a student of comparative religion. He wrote more than 70 books, and he was big on interfaith understanding, meeting with the Dalai Lama and others. And he nurtured people to develop the seeds of a contemplative life. And what I think about when I think about mysticism is that there's this natural claim to universalism, and that many paths lead us to that consciousness, that oneness. And during this pandemic, during this time, we've tried puzzles. I bet many of us have ordered so many puzzles that we don't know what to do. We've tried perhaps knitting or home projects, or who knows what hobby you pulled back up, or maybe you called a friend that you hadn't talked to in 2 years, or reconnected with something or started something. So when we think of mysticism, many paths to wholeness, what is it that you are taking from this time or this knowledge to make you whole? To listen to, who are you? Who do the rocks say that you are? To listen is practiced in many religions. We think of the Muslim prayer, O Allah, place within my heart light, upon my tongue light, within my ears light, within my eyes light, place behind me light, and in front of me light, above me light, and beneath me light. We think of the Pure Land tradition, repeating the names of the Amitabha Buddha, perhaps runners running, doing a mantra or a word or meditation. How do you bring the light, the whole world secretly on fire? What theme song are you giving up? Working 9 to 5. I saw that recently. What is the new song? What is the new or the old? Maybe you're reclaiming something. Merton says, be still. Listen to the stones of the wall. Be silent. They try to speak your name. Listen to the living walls. Who are you? Who are you? Whose silence are you? Eventually, we all slow down and we face ourselves, who we are, who we've been, who we want to be. Merton said, in silence, we face and admit the gap between the depth of our being, which we consistently ignore, and the surface, which is true to our own reality. We recognize the need to be at home within ourselves in order that we might meet others, not just a mask of affability, but with real commitment and authentic love. If we are afraid of being alone, afraid of silence, it is perhaps because of a secret despair of inner reconciliation. If we have no hope of being at peace with ourselves, we will never face ourselves. We will keep running and never stop. I have been that person. I'm sure many of us have had those moments where we maybe had unhealthy behaviors or we just ignored what was important. And then sometimes life tells us that you don't have a choice, whether it is through health or this pandemic, or maybe a relationship change, or maybe something positive, a new job, a child, a relationship. Who are we? Whose are we? Martin Luther King Jr. had his dark nights of the soul, the doubts that plagued him at night. But being cracked open, like Leonard Cohen says, letting the light in, we're vulnerable, but we are not alone. We can't operate very well when we're closed up and oak by ourselves. But if we are Jensum or hearts connected or whatever metaphor works for you, I know that I have survived my hardest times, whether grief or whatever, when I have been able to crack myself open, to cry, to sing, to weep, to shout, to curse, to color in my swearing coloring book. That was the best thing about the pandemic. Oh, color in my swearing coloring book. You know, we need these outlets. We need each other. And I'm so grateful that we have this faith, this Unitarian Universalism that says you have inherent worth and dignity. You were born right the first time. And it's okay to be broken, to be fallible, to be less than, because you will come again and you will follow your journey and you will still rise up. That's resiliency, is not being perfect all of the time, not being productive all of the time. Resilience is sometimes when the mower goes over the flower and you're like, I cut down my flower, but the flower still comes back. You know, it's got roots. It's got roots and water and sunshine. So I'm going to close our time together with this idea that we are not alone. We can practice being silent, listening to stones, the whole world secretly on fire. You know, that labyrinth that we made in our front yard, one heavy stone at a time. I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for figuring out what's a weed and what's a plant. And I'm so grateful that my neighbors don't hate it. And the ones that do just shake their head because it's okay. Because we don't have to please everybody or be perfect. Be beautifully human. I hope that you'll reach out and love, know love and be love, know that you were born right the first time. Amen. So this 50-50 share the plate that we have during our giving has special significance here in the Chippewa Valley. We just had the largest Pride celebration we've ever had. And in Eau Claire, it might not be quite as exciting as our visitors today from Minnesota, but we had 2,000 people at Pride. And I think people, after so long apart, were just so joyful to celebrate. And the youth were just crawling all over the place with their flags and their joy. And our 50-50 share the plate recipient for Eau Claire is the Chippewa Valley LGBTQ Center. And those congregations that are visiting, we encourage you to donate however you wish as well. For those who are donating to Eau Claire, you can donate online at uueauclaire.com or text to give at 84321. With gratitude for the abundance in our lives, we give to help people in need and support the work of this congregation.
And I would like to thank everyone for joining us again today. And please join me at home now as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
Our closing words come from Kelly Wiseman, Asprooth Jackson. I send you out now to share yourself with the world. May its promise and complexity set your mind ablaze. May you hold fast to what your life has taught you. May you question everything. And when you have changed the world and the world has changed you, may you return again to this place and share what you have learned with us. Go in peace, go in love, and blessed be.